dealing with kids in lockdown is fun?
I have two of my own, so you probably at some point hear them.
Yeah, me
because
too.
my one son adores this thing right here. He loves it. He slept with it last night, so he'll probably be coming to look for it at some point here.
Yeah, I mean, you've got two boys, I've got two girls, so we're
Yeah.
end of the spectrums. But man,
two boys are insane.
I'm going to take your word for it, man. I'm going to take your word for it. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know this is going to be going out on radio, and we do an online piece as well, man. So
okay, cool.
We're ready to go. So first of all, Brodie, man, thank you so much for joining us on Talk Wrestling this week. It's been so exciting to see. I want to call it the new you. It's what's old is new in AEW, right? And you're jumping into this a championship feud straight away, man. Talk to me about how fast that's happened. Does any of that concern you in terms of not a lot of build because of we've got the pay-per-view next week? Talk to me about how excited he was just to get into that program.
No, it doesn't concern me at all, because the reason I came to AEW was to have matches that had meaning behind them, matches that meant something. And now I'm wrestling for a world championship, so I don't think I could pick a better opportunity to jump at. And when Moxley put a mark on his head 2 weeks ago, I decided what's a better chance to do it than now. We don't have my entire Dark Order organization with me at the time, so I figured what better time than now to show them what a true leader is.
I mean, we let's touch on the Dark Order angle. Of course, that's the way you came in. It was a nice swerve because everyone kind of thought it was going to be Matt Hardy or I don't know, or that Marty Scurll. If people thought he was joining, there was a whole list of names, right? So, right. At what point do you know that's what you're doing?
That's hard to say. It was. I mean, when I was supposed to debut, it was supposed to be in my hometown of Rochester, New York on March 13th, so that was a bit of a kick in the gut. But I think I knew far before that, and then was starting to plan and kind of get things together, get some gear made, and, get a suit together. And, so a little bit in advance, and then kind of get the bearings of what I wanted to become, and we're still kind of fleshing that out as it goes, because as of March 13th, everything got thrown for a loop, and we kind of had to reset on its own. And then as people now come back, we'll reset again.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the reason I ask, mainly because you obviously want it to be your interpretation and your vision. So whatever original plans they might have had for the Dark Order, was there a process of, well, of course there's a process of talking to you, but do you know what I mean? Meshing ideas and coming
right.
up with what you've got now.
Yeah, so the thing was, it was laid out to me. It is whatever I want it to be. It's my vision now to make it what I want. And like I said, it kind of got thrown for a loop when the pandemic started, because we kind of had some other things going on and that we were going to get to, but weren't given the chance. But we will get to those. We have a group mentality to kind of conquer things that way. But like I said, not everybody's around, so we had to do it on my own. But as for the process, it's more of just like, hey, this is what I think. What do you think? And then we kind of bounce off each other and get to a conclusion fairly quickly.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a pretty refreshing process, I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's funny you say that. I spoke to Moxley last week, your adversary in waiting, and
right.
He said something similar. So like the segment he did with Jericho, you remember, and the bottle over the head, didn't want to join in a circle. And he was telling me about how different the creative process was, how less stressful, I guess, the whole process is. I guess the same question to you then for this segment this week and challenging Moxley and things like that. How much easier and creatively fulfilling, I guess, is it all for you?
So I'll put it this way: when I did my debut promo vignette, I kind of asked some people. I said, "Well, what do you want said?" And they said, "This is your promo. This is your vignette. You say what you want to say. You've been a caged animal for so long. Go ahead and say whatever you want to say." And so and put a little promo together, and came out very well. And the same thing with last week. So that was pretty much the first time I've spoken on a live mic for over 10 seconds in the last 8 years, because I was never given that opportunity to do that in WWE. So it was kind of the same process. Hey, go say what you want to say, lay out the challenge to him, and then make sure he accepts it.
Yeah. I mean, the first promo, the inaugural one you had debuting, I thought was awesome.
Mhm.
It was how nice was it? Because that's kind of a universal feeling on Twitter. Everyone seemed to love it. How nice was it to almost, you know it in yourself, of course, but to prove again, like, no, I can talk. I am much more than just a
Right.
stoic big man.
Well, it's a huge relief, but again, I've said this before in a few other interviews. There's now another pressure put on you because there's nobody to blame. There's
Mm,
no writer to say, hey, you wrote that and it wasn't good. I'm now the writer, so if it's not good, it's on me. And so there's another layer of pressure, but there's also another layer of creativity and fulfillment from that. And like I said, I'm the one that has to look myself in the mirror at the end of the day. So it's either going to be good or it isn't. And I
mm.
know I can make it good, so I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, well, the early signs would certainly tell you that as well. But when I look at it starting during a pandemic, of course, you can't gauge those crowd reactions. It's kind of
Right.
just, there it's more intimate, which can actually work for some performers too.
Mhm.
For your gimmick at the moment, or character, I should call it, it certainly lends itself more to a intimate, getting
Right.
to know them kind of process. So I guess it's a two-pronged question. We've already kind of touched on the first part, a bit of a
Mhm.
gut punch not being able to debut in your hometown.
Right.
So how has it been debuting under these circumstances? There's pros and cons, but for the most
Yeah.
part, that's a big setback, I guess.
Absolutely. And the thing was, like, Tony Khan laid it out to me. He said, look, if you don't want to debut now, you don't have to. We'll wait. And I said the same thing. I've been a caged animal for so long now, being off the road, being out of a ring, that I just wanted to engage myself into something creative and to get back in professional wrestling. I love professional wrestling. I hated being away from it. So there was not even a shadow of a doubt for me to be like, no, I'll be there on March 13th. And the first one it was strange to walk out there with nobody around. And then the second one, when I wrestled QT Marshall, was even strange because we didn't have anybody in the crowd. And it is a very almost a surreal feeling.
Mm.
But once you get between the ropes, you kind of just kick into that other level of, I guess, insanity for me, where it's just like a different persona. And we're performing for a TV audience, and at the same time, we're performing for our peers. And the respect of my peers is a huge thing for me. So it's just a different aspect of it. But man, I cannot wait to get back in front of an AEW crowd because I haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah, I mean, and I went to the first Double or Nothing, and that was like a real draw to me because I'd only
Right.
mainly done like UK shows or WWE shows. So
Yep.
to experience that fan base was a real like, okay,
Yep.
and I felt like I was part of it almost.
Right.
You was in WWE at those times. You see the AEW shows. Are you thinking,
Right.
that's a bit of me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had friends tell me who were in the crowd what a different vibe it was, what a different feeling it was, just the complete unity from outside the barricades to the people inside the ring, from the people inside the ring to the people in the backstage area. It's almost a complete unity of wanting something better. And I thought it was a perfect fit for me for the whole time.
It's annoying because obviously at the end of the WWE run, you're sitting at home kind of thing. So at what point do you're leaving? I've heard you on the podcast kind of say that you'd already made your
Yep.
mind up and you wanted to
Yep.
do that. Was it always AEW? You thought that's my next place?
So nothing was ever guaranteed. I wanted to wrestle. I wanted to wrestle when I still could. When the career, as it goes on and on, you have more injuries and things happen. And I just didn't want to waste it sitting at home, just collecting a paycheck. Just didn't feel right to me. And like we talked about having two kids, it's what example do I set for them? And it becomes, and at the same time, when I'm 70 years old, when I look in the mirror, am I going to be able to stare back at the person that's looking at me? Because I didn't want to have a regret, not one in life. And when I came home the one day and was pretty much set on leaving, and my wife told me, go ahead, we'll be fine no matter what happens. I knew right there was no going back. But then as they continued to pursue me, it became harder and harder to say no. So, but I just man, that's all I want to do is I want to wrestle. And I love it. And that's all and I'm made for it. I was created for it. So.
Who was like the first person you really spoke to from AEW?
So I've reached out to many people through the almost year-long process. Even since Cody had left WWE, we stayed in contact, and I always would message these people when they had a great match and tell them like, hey, like the Bucks or Cody. I would just always tell them like, hey, fucking awesome job, like it was awesome. We sat home and watched it, and we discussed it in the WWE locker room and stuff like that. So, and Jericho also, like, I was always in contact with him. So as soon as the release came down, I got several phone calls from several people.
Yeah.
It was heartwarming and refreshing and kind of a monkey off my back.
I mean, another thing that I'm actually interested in as well. I mean, a lot of people, they loved. I remember the spell where you were working with like Randy Orton and obviously Bray and all that. And you were really, but then obviously suddenly it would die again, and everyone was like, "Oh, getting frustrated." I spoke to Lance Archer last week, and we were talking about big men matchups.
Hold on 1 second. My baby has walked in.
Are you getting a run in? Okay.
Yeah. All right, come here. You say hi.
Hey.
Hold on 1 second. Hey, Ben. All right.
We've all been there.
Yeah, great.
So to pick up, sorry, I was saying that I spoke to Lance Archer, and we were saying about the big men matchups and stuff. You know, we've got you, got Lance, we've got Wardlow, we've got a lot of, you know, people who AEW, that was a criticism originally. It was like, oh, they haven't got enough big men.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they had a bunch real quick.
Exactly, right? How excited are you to show people what big men can do there?
Absolutely. And I think Lance has been presented in a way that is unbelievable to watch him come in and just demolish people. And it's almost like, I don't want to say we're on a collision course at some point in the next few years, but I think almost we have to be. So I've checked him out in Japan. I'm sure you see my stuff. So I assume at some point me and Lance will tie it up, and I'm excited to actually show people the different level of big man style we can get to.
Yeah, and the thing I love about that too, especially in Lance's case, you know, I think you're 40, he's 43. Mm-hmm. It's one of them where, you know, he said it himself, it took him maybe longer to figure it out.
Absolutely.
To arrive where he is. He had that killer year in Japan last year, G1 Kingdom.
Right.
And now here he is. For you, in terms of figuring it out and, you know, being a more rounded performer, I guess guys in WWE, like, you know, we were just talking about Bray, Randy, who was it who really, well, I don't want to say who all helped you put it together, but influenced you to, you know, to be where you are?
So even before I got to WWE, I went to Dragon Gate I worked there for a couple, maybe 3 years, I believe. And I was treated like a monster over there and treated like a giant. And that's kind of where it like clicked in me, like, oh, this is how it's done. And then I wrestled Shingo a few times in Cork and Hall, and we had unbelievable matches. And it kind of clicked again, like, hey, this is how it's done. So then coming to WWE, it was kind of a thing where me and Rowan were these two monsters standing behind Bray. And we had to kind of readjust our style a little bit to fit into a more giving style. Yeah. And as time went on, that worked and didn't work. I think they kind of missed the boat on a little bit of that with me and Rowan. I think they could have treated us in a different way. But again, that's their decision. As for WWE, I always say Fit Finlay was one of the biggest influences I've ever had, just the way he worked in ring. And he always helped me protect my size and to do things that protected my size. So I think he was a huge, huge part of it.
Yeah, and everyone's got so many good things to say about Fit, particularly the women. You know, what a guy. You know, that's the thing with WWE. It feels like at some point, like the ladder match with Ziggler, awesome, right? Yep. So were you kind of shocked sometimes to be cast back to maybe just the tag team with Rowan or whatever?
Yeah, so it was always like I was given a chance to a certain level, and every time I got to that level, I knocked it out of the park. And it was always frustrating because there was nothing ever after that. So same thing with, like, we did the ladder match in December with Ziggler, and then we went into an angle right up until WrestleMania with the IC title and did another ladder match at Mania and crushed that one too. I think it was WrestleMania 31. And so just good matches all around, and house show matches were great with Ziggler, and there was just nothing ever there. And it was almost the same thing when I thought I was getting over in the Bray and Randy angle. It was almost like it was supposed to be something else, right? And it was supposed to be something else, and then it just wasn't there. And that's where finally I figured out, like, hey, this isn't I don't think this is the place for me anymore. So.
Well, I'll say all that to say this. In AEW, it feels like there's a lot more traction, that you're actually more in control of your destiny. But, you know, you're not. Is it so much that WWE is like I don't want to call it a dictatorship, but, you know, you're collaborating more in AEW?
Yeah, so in WWE, it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And if one of those cooks doesn't feel like you're a good ingredient for what they're making, then you're not going to be part of it. And if you're not chosen one, then you're not going to be part of it. You'll be a part of it if you're good enough in the ring. You'll be a part of it to a certain point, but that only gets you so far there. And even never given a chance to talk, never given a chance to flesh out a character, anything like that, it's just frustrating. So now in AEW, it's like a totally different, 180, where it's like, hey, go flesh out your character, go talk. Go have a match with Christopher Daniels. Go have a match with Jon Moxley, and let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
And again, the onus is now on me, because there's no one else. Like I said, there's no one else to blame. So if I don't perform and I don't live up to it, then it's on me.
And I know that Tony Khan is involved a lot in terms of the creative and whatnot. But you know, the executive people in Cody, the Bucks, Kenny. What's it like working with them on storylines and what you're doing and their performers too? Because I guess that's kind of a fresh dynamic that there isn't really, anywhere.
Right. No, and then Kenny and the Bucks are three people that I can't wait to mix it up with. Also, like that, I've been watching them for years and just can't wait for the opportunity to get in the ring with them. I've mainly touched base with Cody over this character so far. Again, like the Bucks haven't been around since everything started, just because it's been insane. And so I think pretty soon we're going to have everybody back and get back to full bore here. And I can't wait. Like I said, I've been in contact with the Bucks quite a bit through all this. And I can't wait to wrestle them, honestly. Like that's one of my main goals here.
Yeah, I don't know. We've only got a couple minutes left here, but for me, one thing I did want to ask: Revolution. I'm assuming you watched that pay-per-view. I thought that was an awesome pay-per-view. We've seen empty arena, things with various companies at this point.
Right.
What do you expect for Double or Nothing? What's your goal for the fans at home?
Well, I think if anybody's ever seen me and John get in the ring together, me and Mox get in a ring together, then something probably horrible is going to happen. My wife told me today, she goes, "You and Moxie scare me." So I'm assuming he's going to bring in a level of violence, and I'm going to have to bring a level of violence right back to him. I think people are going to get their money's worth. There's a hell of a card that AEW has put together for this, and we haven't taken our foot off the gas once since all this has started, and I think we're just going to continue and roll right through it. And, man, I mean, we understand it's a tough time. We understand the situation, but we think we're going to present something that's very, very special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right as well in terms of how the last few weeks have been. TNT title's been built wonderfully.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of your hopes though, and I bring this back to the world title, for a performer like yourself who was, you've done a lot in this business, but would is it important to you to capture a world title? We all know wrestling's wrestling, but it means something.
1,000% it's very important to me. Just holding it, and I'll show you. Just holding it, this feels absolutely right to me. Like, this feels very special to me. And I told you before, like, my son slept with the title last night.
Yeah.
So those are things I can't replicate in life. And to be at the top of a company, to be at the top of an industry is of the utmost importance to me. And if Jon Moxley is the one I have to go through, so be it. We've been doing it for 10 years. We did it in CZW. We did it in Evolve. We did it in WWE. And now we're going to do it next Saturday. So yes, this thing outside of this nameplate here.
Yeah. This
is a very, very important piece of metal to me.
Well, look, man, you don't want to come home and disappoint. You don't want to have to answer to your son.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, Brodie, man, been a pleasure to meet you, talk to you. I can't wait to see what you do with Mox, man, and I'm really excited to see what you do in AEW.
Thank you
so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.